Neno hili si hivyo. Mambo ni matatu.
Ladies and gentlemen, good morning and welcome back to our channel once again. Who actually won in Mbeere North? That is the question which I want to pose to you guys. Because if those elections were free and fair, I doubt if the DP candidate, Newton Karish, would have lost. The truth of the matter is that the united opposition, led by Rigathi Gachagua, Justin Muturi, and Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka, made some grave mistakes. And that's why Leo Wamudende was actually declared the MP-elect. And these are some of the mistakes which they committed. The first mistake was their failure to protect the votes. From the onset, it was very clear that UDA had only two strategies, for Mbeere North and for Malava. But I want to focus on Mbeere North. Voter bribery and rigging.
Kenya, the IBC is totally compromised, and we are happy that this has been confirmed this early, because had this not been confirmed this early, they could have duped Kenyans that they can supervise and pretend over the general elections.
I doubt if in the history of the Republic of Kenya, we've ever witnessed the level of voter bribery which we witnessed in Mbeere North. For rigging, it has always been there.
Nimejionea maajabu. Mimi sijaiona election mtu akichukua polling station hostage. Jana nilijionea na macho, sikuambiwa na macho. Huyu Ruku, the CS Ruku, ameingia polling station, amekuja na guns wakiwa na mapanga, wameingia pale, wamefukuza kila mtu, wakabaki ni yeye na ule mtu wa IBC. Maajabu, not for 1 hour. Unapigia polisi, wakikuja wanakuja kukupiga risasi. One of my cars right now has a bullet hole, not one but two. They thought I'm in the car, so they shot at it. Na maajabu ya Musa ni kwamba hiyo yote inafanyika with some complacency ya IBC.
But Rigathi Gachagua and Justin Muturi failed their supporters. They failed to protect the votes. Because it's something they knew, it's something they expected, that these guys were going to steal these votes. So they ought to have put in place measures to protect the rigging. Because I remember opining on this platform some time back that one of the main objectives which William Ruto wanted to achieve in Mbeere North was to test his game plan for Mount Kenya. Previously, it used to be Raila Amolo Odinga. And of course, even in the last election, most people believed that William Ruto actually bought the mountain. The truth is, the mountain had left William Ruto completely. Then William Ruto came up now with a new strategy, voter bribery. Did it work? I think it worked.
Ati anasema ati analeta watu hawajui kusoma.
Anaingia huko. Yaani kama sasa kuja anakuambia wewe kifanye ukiingia hapo juu kusoma. Niambie huyu. Niambie sasa akienda unajua kuna manyaka huko. Sasa huyo ni agent wa nani? Wanawake akaubia anakuambia wewe ukiingia huko ndani unajifanya unasoma. Huyo bwanake anakuonyesha unachagua wa Mudende. Na sisi si Mudende.
But voter bribery alone is not enough, because you can bribe Kenyans, but they still vote for someone else. So which means Rigathi and the team failed in protecting the votes. There is a polling station which they cited. In that polling station, I think it's called Gitumbuni or Gitumburi something polling station, where they alleged that CS Ruku went there and chased everybody. How did they allow that to happen? The truth is, they failed their supporters. They did not protect the votes. If they could not protect the votes in Mbeere North, one constituency, how will the united opposition protect the votes in the entire country, especially in where they don't have presence? I don't know. Maybe you can tell me. The second mistake which they committed, and I think this was the biggest, and they made it from the onset, their process of picking the candidate. DCP had attracted several candidates for this seat, but this seat belonged to Democratic Party. Muturi identified an MCA and then imposed this MCA on united opposition. Between DP and DCP, which party is popular in Mbeere North? My answer is DCP. But even after picking that candidate, they failed to manage the fallout. Because remember, DCP had attracted several candidates. Some of them were very strong. Then, last minute, they said, okay, we are going to support the DP candidate. But they did not manage these other guys.
In the spirit of collaboration and fairness under the united opposition and our resolve to unity ahead of the 2027 general elections, leading to the identification of one presidential candidate to face William Ruto, we have agreed that DCP will support the Democratic Party in Mbeere North constituency, acknowledging that the seat was previously held by the Democratic Party and should rightfully be retained for the party's candidate to complete a full term, and hence DCP has agreed to give support to the Democratic Party candidate and start down our candidate at DCP.
And that's how Moses Kuria was able now to get this candidate to run on his ticket. I've seen comments alluding to the fact that maybe Moses Kuria was used to split the votes. That candidate got less than 2,000 votes. You can't blame the loss to those 2,000 votes because you don't even know how those 2,000 votes would have voted. The thing is, there was failure on the part of Rigathi Gachagua and Justin Muturi to manage the fallout after they picked the DP candidate. Otherwise, they would have conducted some nominations and then managed it. You see, one of the reasons why the ODM candidate in Kasipul struggled was because after the nominations, ODM party failed to convince the other aspirants to back Boyd. Most of them went their ways, including one of the strongest, which was Newton Ogada. That's exactly the same mistake Rigathi and Muturi committed. Number three, and I think this is what made them lose. Their camp was heavily infiltrated. Their strategic camp was heavily infiltrated. All their strategies were leaking to government. All their strategies. Immediately they finished meetings. The other camp already knew what they were planning. And that's how the other camp was able to plan ahead of them. And I've always warned Rigathi Gachagua to be very careful about infiltration, because you'll have people who honestly support you, but everybody has a price. They can be persuaded by the government, please just do for us this. Every time you meet, we want this information. So that infiltration is what led them to fail to organize how to protect votes. It's what created for them overconfidence. And that is what told them that the Gen Zs were going to vote for Harish because he's an artist. He has a presence online. So infiltration. Number four, and I hope you also noted this, lack of voter engagement, the direct voter engagement. I've been studying Malava after the election. I've been trying to understand how this Ndakwa won. Let me play for you one of the clips of Ndakwa campaigning in Malava and compare it to Karish. Okay, let me also play for you another clip of Ndakwa campaigning. Now, the reason I've played for you that Ndakwa clip, you can clearly see Ndakwa is campaigning alone. He's engaging his audience, the voters, directly. Granted, Rigathi Gachagua is very popular in Mount Kenya because he has played with the emotions of the people of the mountain. But directly, he has not engaged them. That is his biggest failure. He ought to have engaged the voters directly. What Rigathi Gachagua and the team used to do, they would organize big rallies, go there in long convoys, address the people, and then disappear. That was the biggest mistake. And I doubt if they fixed that, if they could have lost. There was no direct voter engagement. Rigathi tried to go to the people in the mornings, but just for the optics. That was for the optics. The candidate, I didn't see the candidate doing that. And the other mistake, which was the biggest, was relying on the agencies. You know, something happened during the Gen Z protest, that a young man in Embu, Billy Mwangi, was arrested. And the Gen Zs were mad. The young man became a darling of the people in Embu. And that's why Embu became one of the areas where William Ruto found it very difficult. So when this by-election was called, this guy was part of the campaign. But it was assumed that the young people were going to easily vote. That did not happen. On the voting day, not only in Mbeere North, but across the country, young people were nowhere to be seen. We only saw women, old men, and the average age, 30 and above. Which means Gachagua and the united opposition failed to rally the young people. I had expected them to come up with a very strong Gen Z-led campaigns going door to door, which means they locked the Gen Zs from the campaigns. And these young people said, okay, sisi tutaendelea na TikTok yetu, we won't care. And lastly, I think local dynamics might have also been a factor. Because I observed that this UDA candidate was not talking much in rallies. And I also realized that Rigathi Gachagua and the team also fell for a trap, which Ruto laid for them. Rigathi tried to make the contest between Ruto and himself. But Ruto successfully managed to make the contest between Rigathi and Kindiki. So the locals there had to make that choice. That do we go with Kindiki, who is one of our own, and is a deputy president, or do we bank on Rigathi Gachagua, a man who is impeached, a man who cannot be a deputy president, a man who cannot even run for the presidency? Where do we go? So I think they didn't want to shame Kindiki. And again, locally there, I'm told there is a way the UDA candidate was coming from some populous areas, and then the guy who contested on Moses Kuria's party also managed to split some votes there. But in short, I've never witnessed the kind of voter bribery and rigging which took place in Mbeere North and Malava. If that's what William Ruto is planning to use, then the opposition will have a very big task ahead of them. Until next time, this is Lee Makwiny. Bye-bye.